Hey CE5ers, welcome to the first episode of the third season of this CE5 podcast, dedicated to close encounters of the fifth kind, human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials. I'm Andre Cardoso, and this show is for all of the ambassadors to the universe out there, and all of you who will soon step into that role of being an ambassador for this groundbreaking initiative. No matter who you are, any small efforts that are put into this can have a big effect. As many of you will know, CE5 is tremendously empowering because when we go out into the field intending to make peaceful contact with the purpose of putting ourselves at service to a higher vision for the Earth, what we are effectively doing is bypassing the secrecy of unacknowledged special access projects and allowing we, the people, to be the true instruments of disclosure on this topic and the creators of a new civilization. The first season of this show presented some personal stories about different people coming into this initiative. And in the second season, I presented some detailed tips and tools to apply in your own CE5 fieldwork. And in this third season, we will hear some more personal stories. And a theme that seems to have emerged from these interviews is the usefulness of confirming ET contact through independent corroboration from multiple witnesses. Before we get into those stories, a lot has happened since the last season ended in mid-2020, and in this episode I want to cover some recent news and point to where this movement is currently heading. I'll also include links to any topics I mention, and you can find those in the description of this episode. First of all, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to you, the one who's watching or listening to this, making use of this show as a way of educating yourself and others. I've gotten lots of messages from listeners sharing their appreciation, and I want to throw it right back at you. It warms my heart tremendously to hear about listeners like you who've been inspired to form their own CE5 groups and take this initiative into their own hands. This show and this movement are not about any one individual, but about the power of acting in higher consciousness and as a collective, united force that can shift the trajectory of current events in a more positive and hopeful direction for our communities, our children, and our planet. I also want to shout out the popular podcast Euphemet and the YouTube channel How to See a UFO for interviewing me about CE5 and publishing those interviews on their platforms. To hear and watch those, check the links in the description. The new CE5 documentary film by Dr. Stephen Greer, directed by Michael Mazzola and crowdfunded by folks like you and me, has been making big waves and is leading to a groundswell of interest and support in this work since it premiered in April of 2020. The film is called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Contact Has Begun. And if it's not what brought you to this podcast in the first place, then I strongly recommend you watch it right now. I mean it. Pause this episode, scroll down to the show notes where I've got a link to the movie and watch it. Since the documentary first became available, it's gone to the top of the charts in the documentary category across major streaming platforms like Amazon and iTunes. The originator of that film and the godfather of this movement, Dr. Stephen Greer, has been incredibly busy in making media appearances, running workshops, and working behind the scenes to encourage those in places of power to take action to prevent a negatively spun disclosure centered on a false flag alien threat. He's been working to bring out the truth about how ending the secrecy and negative spin on this subject has the potential to bring about a new era for peace, reconciliation, new transformative technologies, and ecological and social healing. This movement has caught the interest of well-known celebrities like Jeremy Piven of the show Entourage, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, Chris Daughtry, members of major rock bands like Godsmack, Nickelback, and Shinedown, and most notably pop star Demi Lovato has gotten very involved, publicly endorsing the CE5 initiative on social media and going out and doing the very things that we talk about in this podcast, making use of the CE5 Contact app. She's even gotten together with Dr. Greer to go out and meditate under the stars, and you can watch them and join in a guided meditation that was posted on YouTube in October. I'll include a link in the description for this episode. The CE5 film finally had a live premiere event in Phoenix, Arizona on November 20th, and the pre-film red carpet event is available to watch for free on YouTube. It includes a 10-minute guided meditation, and short interviews with CE5 ambassadors who appeared in the film. These include Raven Nabulsi, Pat Pearsall, and Justice Campbell, all people that I've met personally on CE5 expeditions and who have been inspiringly instrumental in this movement. After the premiere, Dr. Greer held a day-long online workshop about CE5 and Disclosure on November 22nd. There, a new top-secret witness and whistleblower came out and shared his testimony, which is now available for free on YouTube. This witness went in-depth about the U.S. Coast Guard retrieval of a downed extraterrestrial vehicle off the coast of Guam in early 2002. This testimony is powerful, and he is just one of dozens of major witnesses that have been brought forward in video testimony through the Disclosure Project since 2001. While the current UFO mainstream seems to be focused on piecemeal disclosures, which emphasize the threat-focused militarization of this issue, true disclosure on this topic has been coming out to the public from high-level witnesses through the Disclosure Project for the last 20 years, and the credibility of those witnesses and their claims holds to this day. Dr. Greer has gone from having a dozen or so witnesses as a part of the Disclosure Project in the early 90s when he first started, to now having over 980 witnesses on his team. These witnesses have been party to high-level UFO-related secrecy and have held positions in militaries, governments, scientific institutions, and corporations that have had direct experience and knowledge of the fact that extraterrestrial intelligence is visiting Earth and that there are extremely powerful rogue elements who are keeping this secret and or putting out the false narrative of an extraterrestrial threat to humanity. Now is a super important time. We all need to take action in order to turn around the course of the new U.S. Space Force from being oriented toward a projected threat and turn that into an organization that facilitates a transformation and advancement of contact. We need an informed citizenry. We need activists. We need hundreds more whistleblowers like the one who came forward at the November 22nd event. These are just some things that Dr. Greer has been saying recently, and I want to reiterate and put it out there for people who might not have heard it. In 1997, the Disclosure Project put a legal process in place that established that the unacknowledged projects that were running under secrecy related to the UFO cover-up, those projects are illegal, and therefore the secrecy orders on those projects are null and void. Because of those legal processes put in place, in the last 20 years, the hundreds of witnesses who have come forward through the Disclosure Project have not been threatened by the establishment or those within the military-industrial complex. There is protection on this. Daniel Sheehan and other constitutional attorneys, conservative and liberal, are all on board with this. On the international front, a lot has happened in recent years. France has taken action in a positive direction through their agreement to pursue ongoing peaceful relations with extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. Greer gave a whole presentation on this called The European Connection. The Russian Federation and China have signed up along with many other countries to keep weapons out of space and to have space be a place for peace. Word is that the Vatican is also very much in favor of a peaceful disclosure on this subject, but military complexes in the United States and UK are still holdouts in this area right now. Dr. Greer has sent full briefings and recommendations to the President, Vice President, and the President-elect so they can understand the things at play and take the best courses of action. Whether they'll actually do anything positive on this, we're yet to see, so it's important that we take initiative ourselves. While we as individuals may not have personal access to those who pull the strings in Washington, we as citizens need to voice that we want peace in space. It is a vital component to ensuring peace on Earth as humanity evolves further into the future. Taking part in the CE5 Initiative is one powerful way of taking decisive action as a civilization and as individuals toward peace. Thank you for joining in this process with me and with all the other activists out there right now. Remember that it only takes 1% of humanity becoming coherent to shift the consciousness of the entire world population. Again, I am Andre Cardoso. Thank you for listening and watching, and I'll see you in the next one where we will hear an interview with a CE5 ambassador about their experiences. Take care.